Hi, 7th grade. Welcome to our very first flipped learning homework. So now, as I explained in class, by having us take the notes at home on video, it opens up more opportunities for us to do labs in the classroom. And I know that you and I both enjoy doing labs, so in order to have the most labs possible, you need to make sure you're at home watching these short videos and taking your notes. I promise to keep the videos as short as possible so that you're not at home watching something very long, but if you're not completing them at home, then we're going to have to start taking notes again in class. So here's our first try. Hopefully it's really a lot of fun and very easy to do, so just follow these directions. The first thing you need to do is open up 1.1 Characteristics of Living Things homework. Alright, the directions are right here at the top. You're going to watch this video. You pause and rewind the video when you need to and take the notes in the rest of the document. So the notes are right here. You're going to define what an organism is, and you're going to list the 6 characteristics of living things and their importance. So without further ado, here are the notes that you need to take tonight. Alright. So today in class, we made a class list of the characteristics of living things. Our list was probably really long, but biologists only recognize 6 characteristics of living things. And in fact, most biologists can't really agree on what these 6 are. So here's my list, the list I'd like us to know for class. If you Google it, you'll probably come up with about 3 or 4 different lists with a couple different extra things added or taken away. But these are the 6 things that we will know to determine if something is living or non-living. So the first thing, all right, is that all living things grow and develop. Second is that all living things obtain and use energy. Third is that all living things remove waste. Fourth is that all living things can reproduce. And fifth is that all living things are made of 1 or more cells. And 6, and finally, is that all living things respond to their environment or environments. All right, so let's take a look at each one individually. All right, in order for something to be considered alive, it has to show all 6 of these characteristics. Anything without even one of these 6 characteristics is not considered living. So in order for something to be considered living, it has to do all 6, and then we call it an organism. So to define organism, an organism is any living things. Living things are called organisms. All right, first and foremost, all living things grow and develop. All right, they grow, whether that be taller or wider, or they grow lengthwise or widthwise, however you want to look at it. All living things grow during their lifetime. All right, sometimes living things completely change their form, like a tadpole to a frog or a caterpillar to a butterfly. But most of the time we think of growing and developing as getting from small to big. And even though living things usually reach a maximum height, they can always grow wider or skinnier, and they can always grow older. All right, longer hair, shorter hair. All living things are constantly growing throughout their lifetime. All living things obtain and use energy. All right, every living thing needs energy in order to survive. It just depends on where they get it from. The sunlight is the ultimate source. The sun is the ultimate source of energy for all living things. Plants directly tap into that sunlight and make their own sugar, and then organisms eat plants, and then some organisms eat other organisms. So we can eat both plants and animals, but something like a lion is only going to be eating other animals. But that is how they get their energy. But all living things require energy, even bacteria. Bacteria will either get their energy from you if they're inside you or some other plant, or maybe they're eating dead things and they're getting energy from dead things. Number 3 is remove waste. All animals use energy and in that process make waste. They need to remove it somehow so that it does not become harmful to them and cause death. For example, you eat meat, a nice juicy hamburger. That makes protein that you're ingesting. So you take that protein and you break it down in your body so that you can use it. But in the process of breaking that protein down, you make something called urea. And urea is a very dangerous chemical, and if it builds up in your body, you will die. So instead, what your body does is it uses your kidneys, in that really cool picture right there, to filter out that urea. Then it travels down to your bladder, and then we all know what happens when our bladder is full. We need to find the restroom, because that is how our body is getting rid of that urea. All right? Birds get rid of urea. dogs, cats, almost every animal makes urea when it breaks down protein and then needs to get rid of it. Bacteria also get rid of waste. Plants get rid of waste. It's just all living things do it differently. All living things can reproduce. All right, organisms produce more organisms of their own kind, and reproduction allows living things to continue. Now, not every individual living thing may reproduce. I'm sure you guys know people that do not have any kids and will not have any kids. That's okay. But every type of living thing has the ability to reproduce. All right, if it doesn't have the ability to reproduce, then we cannot consider it a living thing. Number 5. All living things are made of one or more cells. Now, last year in 6th grade, you should have learned about cells, so we're not going to go into detail, but cells are the basic building block of life. So all living things are made of cells, whether it's a single-celled bacteria or a multi-celled human. And last but not least, number 6, respond to their environment. All organisms have features or adaptations that help them to survive in their environment, like gills or hair or lungs, depending on where you are. All these things help us to survive. Organisms also react to changes in their surroundings. All right, if you come across a bright light, you will blink. All right, if you're cold, you will shiver. Plants grow towards sunlight. Bacteria move and swim to areas where there are food. All living things respond to their environment. They're not just sedentary. They will change and adapt in order to survive. All right, in summary, here are our 6 characteristics. All right, and all living things must display all 6 of these characteristics in order to be considered alive. So thank you very much for listening to this video. That is your notes portion. Feel free to rewind, watch again, pull it up right before a test. This video is yours. But also remember that there's a couple more questions on your homework. So if you would move back over to your homework, scroll down. I want you to do like we did in class. All right, I gave you 4 things. I want you to tell me which of the 6 characteristics it meets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You'll mark if it meets it. I don't know. All right, and if it doesn't, you'll leave it blank. And then ultimately, you'll tell me if that thing can be considered living or non-living. All right, that was my very first video. Hopefully it was short, sweet, and to the point. Hopefully you learned something or a review from last year. Tomorrow we'll be ready to do some labs in class. If you have not watched this video, then while everyone else in class is doing their lab, you will be watching this video. Have a great evening, and I will see you tomorrow.